I love the Monster Hunter franchise. It's probably one of my favorite game franchises of all time, and I've been playing since Monster Hunter Freedom 2 on the PSP, even going back to play some of the older titles, such as Monster Hunter Freedom and Monster Hunter DOS. But many of you know that Monster Hunter Wilds hasn't received the best reviews, and I loved the later game content. Most of the games do just have great late game content, but for Wilds, it's just the overall multiplayer playing through the whole game as a group that I really have a problem with. I'm playing Wilds, getting somewhat invested into the story because this is a brand new game and I'm really excited to start playing online with my friends. I asked them, hey, where are you guys at? And how do we join each other's quests? Looking through some menus, we find the squad lobbies. Eager to begin hunting, I start up a new quest and I let them know I just departed. They tell me they're unable to join until I trigger my cutscene. Disappointed, so I hop on my secret, listen with half interest as I'm guided through the forest as an NPC drones on about the environment or a monster. I'm not too sure because I'm more focused on gathering items because that's the only thing I'm actually able to do at the moment. Finally reaching the monster, I trigger a cutscene, further delaying actually being able to play with my friends. All the while, they're waiting back at base camp, probably wondering what the heck is taking so long. Looking back, I wish I would have just played through twice. My first time just skipping through all the stories, skipping all the cutscenes, because my friends were constantly 1 or even 2 quests ahead of me, because I actually wanted to watch these cutscenes, listen to the NPC dialogue. But in hindsight, I probably would have had more fun just skipping everything and then being able to actually join or play through on some of these monster quests for the first time, much like we did with the older generation games. I'll never forget getting into high rank in Monster Hunter Freedom 2, beating those final key quests and unlocking the Acantor, and seeing him with my friends and my brother for the first time, and just getting absolutely decimated by this guy. I mean, we had no clue what his attacks were. None of us knew what to expect because we were all going into this quest together, and even just experiencing that cutscene together instead of, oh, I saw this monster, I have to exit out and then join your quest. It just really takes away from that magic. And I really do feel like that magic has been lost with World and Wilds, as it's all just story driven and more focused on the single player story versus hunting with your friends and experiencing these monsters together for the very first time. While a majority of the negative reviews focus on performance issues, which of course is definitely a huge problem, a lot of them also touch on the fact that if you want to play with friends, you have to trigger a cutscene, first of which going through a walking segment on the secret or just walking to the monster, trigger maybe another cutscene, fight the monster, and then you can actually invite your friends to that quest, and then rinse and repeat. There may be a cutscene after the quest is completed. Go talk to some more NPCs. This cycle just continues over and over. One such review states, ignoring the glaring performance and network issues, I don't understand how you managed to make multiplayer so bad after publishing Rise. When the multiplayer works, it has the same problems as World, like needing to start quests solo, find the objective, watch a cutscene, exit the quest, and join a friend to actually play the game together. Why? You already had such a good system in Rise. If you're going to do sequences and cutscenes, let me at least bring a friend along. So in this video, I want to be focusing on the early game and different Monster Hunters, as well as their accompanying tutorials. And with the popularity of Monster Hunter just increasing over the past decade, I can see why they want to incorporate all these tutorials into the beginning of the game, making sure you know all the different aspects on how the village works and how all the different stations in the village work, as well as all the new mechanics that come with each generation. But I do believe there is a right way and a wrong way about doing this, and I'm just going to go over the different generations of Monster Hunter and really focusing on what they teach you in the early game and how quickly you can actually begin playing the game without any hand-holding. Now, with Monster Hunter Wilds, I feel like it has by far the longest tutorial segment. I would almost consider all of low rank to be a tutorial in itself. Yes, World and Iceborne have their moments, especially at the beginning of the game, as well as first entering Master Rank with the Hoarfrost Reach. Luckily, once you enter high rank in Wilds, it feels like good old monster hunting for the most part. Level up your hunter rank and obtain new quests, as well as focusing on upgrading weapons and armor. Starting at Wilds, you get hit with a couple cutscenes, and then you're right onto the secret, onto the railroad segment of learning how to look around, as well as use your slinger and shoot ammo. I believe it also prompts you to drop some boulders, introducing the hunter to environmental traps that were added in the 5th gen games. And if you think, oh, I'm on this bird thing, I played Rise, it's just going to have me on this for the very beginning of the game, and for the rest of the game I'll be able to run around and do whatever I want. Oh boy, do I have some news for you. I would love if somebody actually timed how long you just have to walk around in the story of this game. It's gotta be like an hour, at least close to an hour, if not more than an hour of just uncontrollable walking segments of the game. At the end of the train tracks, you speak with Alma. She instructs you on different weapon types. You get to choose a weapon, back on your bird, and then it's on to the cave. Once you enter this cave, of course, there's another cutscene. Skip that bad boy, and it's on to fighting the frog guy. Now, this section where you actually get to fight a monster, I don't have a huge problem with. It is single player for about half the quest, but then you can fire an SOS flare after enough damage has been done. The Chupacabra, or however you say his name, of course, I'm terrible at pronouncing monster names, teaches you the basic weapon mechanics. You'll get prompted to press different buttons for different attacks based on which weapon you're using. It'll go into using focus mode, a new mechanic for Monster Hunter Wilds, which I do like a lot, and the wounding mechanic, showing you that in focus mode you can hit the focus strike, which will then break the wounded segments of the monster. Also, if you take enough damage, it'll prompt you to heal, and when your sharpness goes down, it prompts you to sharpen your weapon. And if this was the end of the tutorial, once you beat the frog guy, you have basic controls, how the slinger works. You can now collect items with your slinger, shooting the slinger ammo, dropping environmental traps, healing, attacking the monster, sharpening your weapon, as well as calling in SOS, multiplayer hunters or support hunters, and that was it. The game would feel a lot more Monster Hunter-like. The developers and the writers just introduce all these story beats and these train track segments and cutscenes that just take away from the gameplay. And while I did say it was cool that you can fight this frog dude like right off the bat, traditionally, the first monster has never been hard, but there was a build up to it. You fought Aptonoth, then you fought some Velociprey or Gaiaprey or Jaggy, then you'd fight the Great Jaggy or the Velocidrome. Never really a hard monster, but at least you had some build up and you got some time with your weapon beforehand, learning a few of the combos. Then 3-4 quests down the road, you're ready to fight your very first boss. Which in Wilds, I would say the chicken dude is more of a good example of a first monster because his moves are a little harder to dodge or, evade through, but still not the hardest monster in the game. Upon completing the quest, we're sent back to the village, with our next task being to speak to the blacksmith, Nada, and the item shop, similar to how Dose did it, where you enter the game, get to the village, the chief tells you, hey, go speak to the villagers. Talking to each NPC, they'll tell you what they can do for you. And talking to these essential NPCs is basically all you need to do to start playing the game for many of the previous titles, and some of them you don't even need to speak to them before you can start hunting. After speaking to these NPCs, you'll be tasked with sending it to an SOS flare and then defeating the fire chicken. And while yes, at this point you can have other players join your quest, first off they have to go through the cutscene, then you'll be interrupted again after the quest is completed with more mandatory walking segments, story dumps. Then you'll have to walk to a village, go to the forest, actually walk to a base camp. You don't even get to ride the bird. Walk some more until you find the Lalabarina. This will then in turn start your next quest. And again, repeating myself for the last time, you'll have to see the cutscene, you and your friends, so you can join each other, then be interrupted again after the quest with more dialogue, more cutscenes, more walking segments. And this just repeats pretty much all the way through low rank. And I appreciate the story writers again crafting this more in-depth story. I just wish that upon character creation, there is an option to just skip all the tutorial stuff or just make multiplayer accessible throughout the entire game. No needing to watch all these cutscenes, exit out on a quest only to join your friend's quest. Maybe even having the low rank be like the high rank section where you just can go out and fight the monsters that you need to fight in order to progress through the story rather than needing to go through all these story beats. And yes, for new players, I totally understand wanting to show them how the mechanics work, how different weapons work. You know, we have the training room now, so that's another thing is you could just send them to the training room. You could also have a separate tutorial section for new players that have never played the game. But for returning hunters and veteran hunters that have played the previous games, I think these tutorial segments are super unnecessary. So let's take a look back at some of the previous games and see what they did right and what they did wrong or where they started to go wrong. Now, I'd be lying if I said Monster Hunter never had tutorials. Monster Hunter, that released on the PS2 about 20 years ago or so, was met with mixed and positive reviews. Most of the reviews praised online gameplay and co-op hunting, while also commenting on the buggy controls. While this may not be the case with Monster Hunter 1, but in Monster Hunter Freedom, the hunter begins with 5 different weapons. These include the sword and shield, greatsword, hammer, lance, and light bowgun. Monster Hunter was challenging, and the fundamentals are all laid out in the first few missions. Slay monster, gather item, deliver it. This is our first mission. Next up, we have to slay a monster, cook the meat, introducing the stamina mechanics, and these same types of quests can be found in almost all the Monster Hunter games to this date, giving you the basics of kill, carve, deliver. Next we have gathering quests, which don't involve any killing, but we do need to search for the items that we're looking for, and also have the tools necessary to gather them. This is because prior to Monster Hunter World, we actually needed pickaxes and bug nets. Search, gather, deliver. Gathering items is a key part of all of the games. You need an earth crystal to upgrade your longsword, grab a pickaxe and go mine it. Low on honey and need to stock up on mega potions, head out to the jungle, locate the beehives, and gather some honey. Honey isn't the most useful item by itself, so our next mission is to deliver potions. Potions don't just grow on trees in the forests and hills. In this quest, we're required to search, gather, combine, then deliver. Crafting weapons and armor are a constant in all of the Monster Hunter titles. I find myself only crafting a few of the most basic items in the newer titles, mainly because there is the quality of life change of having the auto crafting system, where if you gather a blue mushroom and herb, it just auto crafts a potion. Likewise, if you have a potion and gather honey, it will just automatically craft a mega potion. Nonetheless, crafting is still an important tool in all of the games. It was just much more essential back in the day, mainly because you just had to craft everything by hand, but you know what I mean. Last up is fishing, which we don't really need to talk about because nobody likes fishing. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that likes fishing in the Monster Hunter games, but in the first game, I think it was a lot more important because you didn't have a farm, and if you needed bomb arrowin or whatever you needed to craft mega barrel bombs, I think it was scatterfish, you actually had to go out and fish these items. Nowadays we just have a farm or you just buy your fish, so let's skip over fishing, but it was part of the tutorial. With the final mission being a slaying quest, slay 3 Velociprey. Velociprey, is that right? I'm sure it's right. And the majority of the key quests in the game will be slaying or hunting quests once you get to the meat and cheese of these games, but it's also good to know the basics of carving, crafting items, gathering, searching for items, delivering items, and maybe fishing. Only because it's like one key quest or you're just trying to fill out your guild card, of course. And before we go on to the next game, I just want to mention that level 2 is a lot more similar to the level 1 quests you will be doing in other Monster Hunter titles. Level 2 consists of course, the urgent slay 3 Velociprey, deliver 7 special mushrooms, deliver 5 Kelby horns, deliver 5 well done steaks, and deliver 1 wyvern egg with the Rathalos present. Lastly, we have the urgent quest to level 3, which is slay the Velocidrome. This is typically the urgent you would find for level 1. And I would say by the time that you enter level 3, you're pretty much ready for the rest of the game. You know the basics of gathering items, carving from the monster. You've probably checked out the item shop, so you've seen which items you need to go gather in order to upgrade that gear. And of course, how to actually slay a big monster. It's also worth mentioning that I believe right off the start of the game, you can just head into the guild hall, at least in Monster Hunter Freedom, and begin questing online with other players and just taking on much more challenging quests that the game has to offer. And I'd say that's what Monster Hunter is all about, just getting in and going and fighting monsters. Sometimes it's nice to just figure out stuff on your own, but if you do need to be shown something, it's also nice to have a tutorial as well, but I would like the option to choose to do so. Now let's head on to Monster Hunter DOS, this being the second mainline title released. DOS just throws the hunter into the world with little to no tutorial whatsoever. The village chief informs us that we can speak to the instructor in case we need a refresher on hunting basics. That's all. One simple dialogue box letting the player know where to find the tutorial information on the game. Speaking with the instructor, he will give you the hunter basics on starting a quest, completing a quest, bringing items and your gear with you. Additionally, the instructor offers basic training with almost the exact same quests found in Monster Hunter 1. On these quests, you will be equipped with basic armor and the sword and shield. This is to be considered one of the most beginner-friendly weapons, allowing quick attacks while also having a lot of time to dodge and block, while also allowing you to consume items with your weapon drawn. Now, these basic training quests consist of deliver 2 raw meat, deliver a well-done steak, deliver 2 honey, deliver 1 potion, and lastly, deliver 1 sushi fish. He also offers weapon training. On these quests, our objective is to slay 5 Velociprey to complete each quest with the 11 different weapon types. Lastly, there are feats of strength, the first of which has you delivering 1 carnivore egg, as well as testing their strength against the Velocidrome, this being the first real monster you can hunt in the game. Well, in Monster Hunter 1, we had the chief guiding us through these first missions. In Monster Hunter DOS, all we have is our main objective, as well as additional subquests that we can complete in order to complete the quest as well. And I really love this subquest system. It definitely helps out a ton in Monster Hunter DOS. Let's say the main objective is just something that you weren't going to actually do on the quest and you're just treating it like a gathering mission. Go out, mine the ore that you need, and then maybe deliver a couple mushrooms in order to complete the quest via subquest. Your first quest in this game acts as a tutorial in itself, being Explore the Jungle. On this quest, we're tasked with delivering 5 special mushrooms. Additionally, we can deliver 2 royal beetles or 4 raw meat to complete the subquests. And of course, these subquests will provide you with extra zenny and items upon completing the quest, whether that be you ending via subquest or just completing the main objective. Monster Hunter DOS isn't the most beginner-friendly of games, especially if you're playing the game for the first time, but you do have the option to go through those tutorial missions free of charge without worrying about losing any zenny if you fail them. At the same time, if it's a repeat playthrough or you're already familiar with the Monster Hunter formula, this game allows you to jump straight into the action, which I absolutely love. And if you guys are interested in Monster Hunter DOS, I would love to make a video on it in the future, but I highly recommend that you go watch Jacob Monster Hunter's review on it, or just go watch SD Shepherd play through on one of his spin the wheel, hell, crazy speedrun things that he does. It's just an amazing game, especially if you're getting bored with the newer titles. Now let's take a look at my first introduction to the Monster Hunter franchise, this being Monster Hunter Freedom 2 and then Unite, basically being the same games, but of course one having the G-Rank expansion as well as some quality of life changes from the previous game. While creating a character before entering the world of Monster Hunter, you're asked if you're a beginner. Saying yes forces you into tutorial through the arena and the training instructor. Beginner training has 2 main sections: basic practice, made up of 7 quests that prepare you for level 1, and weapon usage, made up of 11 quests for each of the weapon types. And on these quests, you're tasked with slaying 5 Gaia-Prey. Me first getting my hands on a PSP, as well as Monster Hunter Freedom 2, of course I clicked, yes, I'm a beginner. Then I had to go through these training sections. But if you're playing the game for a second time, or you're a veteran, or maybe you've played Monster Hunter World, but you want to go check out Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, you can select I'm not a beginner, and you don't have to go through any of this tutorial missions, and you can jump straight into hunting, whether that be through the guild or the village quests. And I'd say the time between character creation, depending on how long it takes you to create your character, and watching the intro cutscene, and talking to all the villagers, you might have 5-10 minutes before you're just straight out hunting monsters with your pals, or just straight up hunting monsters for the village. Just no story necessary, no cutscenes besides the beginning one, no secret railroad missions where you're just stuck on train tracks, forced to walk at minimum speed while they story dump on you and tell you to collect some honey. Oh man, you can tell I'm a little salty about how they did Wilds. Getting back on track, all that is needed to complete the training, however, is just the basic practice quests, following similar quests to the ones found in the first Monster Hunter. You have 2 raw meat, 1 well done steak, 2 honey, 1 potion, and 1 sushi fish. And the final 2 quests are deliver 1 carnivore egg and slay the Gaiadrome. Each of these quests you'll be equipped with a sword and shield, much like the previous titles. As I said earlier, if you don't choose the beginner option, you can just head straight to the village or the guild. Hell, if you want, grab a pickaxe, head to the swamp, mine light crystal, and craft the crystal hammer, which will steamroll you through all of the 1, 2, and most of the 3-star quests. But focusing on the level 1-star quests through the village, they're a tutorial in themselves. The quests found in level 1 consist of delivering herbs, antlers, and popo tongues, which on the popo tongue quest you will see the big bad. The other quests are slay Gaia-Prey and slay Belangos. And finally, the urgent level 2 is hunt the Gaiadrome. While these quests may not teach you how to combine, fish, or deliver an egg, you should already know these basics if you're familiar with the other Monster Hunter titles, or if you're just coming back to play through the game again. Now let's take a look at the 3rd gen titles, with Tri and Tri Ultimate having a similar issue in my opinion. While I understand that it's a new console and they're going to be new players to the game, I still wish they would have given you the option to skip this tutorial segment. And along with the tutorial, there are some story elements to it, which I also understand they're setting up new ideas, new mechanics, but again, I just wish you could skip it, especially for replaying the game. There is a bright side though. Starting out in the village, like all Monster Hunter games should, World and Wilds, you know who you are. You can just head straight into the online Port Tanzia or whatever it's called. I'm not sure for Tri, but at least in Tri Ultimate, talk to the village chief, whatever, head straight online, and you can start playing the game, which is awesome. But to get to the first level 1 quest, you will need to still go through this tutorial in order to, actually begin playing the offline segment of the game. And before I speak on the tutorial, heading to the Port Tanzia in 3 Ultimate, you can just head straight to the swamp, kind of like in Freedom Unite, mine a bunch of earth crystal, iron ore, whatever you need. You can upgrade your hammer like twice, and it's pretty decent. It's going to help you get through a lot of the offline missions. All right, there's basically 2 copycat tutorial missions where you're sent to the Moga Woods and you get the basics of hunting. Kill Aptonoth, get the raw meat, speak to Junior, head back to the village, you get a barbecue, head back into the woods, and you cook the meat. After that, they introduce new elements to the game because they have the resource system where you need to gather resources by slaying monsters. With these resources, you can then use them to upgrade the base camp or, refurbish the base camp because it's destroyed. This allows you to actually go on missions once you've done a few more things. And those are getting some iron ore, which if you went to Port Tanzia and mined in the swamp or just mined anywhere and you have iron already, you can skip the cave section and deliver the iron right away, and this will bring you on right to the next tutorial, which is swimming. Go back, talk to the Wyvern Artisan, teaches you how to mine, go back, deliver the iron ore, and then you're sent back to the Moga Woods to learn how to swim, because of course, Tri and Tri Ultimate have underwater mechanics. And as you're progressing through these tutorial missions, the Moga Woods will open up to more and more areas. And of course, you can actually explore the map how you want. You're not just forced on a linear path. Heading into the water, you kill a big fish, you head back, and then you can actually start these level 1 missions. In total, this doesn't take a terrible amount of time, but it is just tedious, especially if you just want to play the game and it's like your 3rd or 4th playthrough. Also, I do have a gripe to pick with the resource mechanic system. I liked how it worked in the previous games to where you could just gather Wyvern tears in a guild quest and you'd get points that you can use on the farm or whatever. In Tri and Tri Ultimate, you can only get these resource points through the Moga Woods, not on normal basic Moga missions, or you can deliver certain items to Junior as a trade-in for these points. And definitely a cool system. I just wish it was better implemented. Like I said, if you could get these points online, wouldn't have an issue with it at all. And repeating myself again, once you get to level 1, these quests are basically a tutorial. I don't see why they have to add these prior tutorial missions so you can do more tutorial quests. Nonetheless, it's deliver mushrooms, kelby horns, golden fish, red coral stones, and monster guts. Of course, on the monster guts quest, you will see the big bad. Then there's also slay 5 Jagia, and the urgent quest will have you slay 6 Luderoth. Funnily enough, it takes notes from Monster Hunter 1, where the first big monster quest isn't until the next level, but once you get to level 2, you can fight the Great Jaggy, and that is your first big monster hunt. And again, I understand this game came out on the Wii. It was motion control based and it had underwater combat. They really wanted to show off these elements, made sure people knew the fundamentals of the game before they actually shipped them off to level 1. But I just would like an option to skip this tutorial. Along with that, while you're going through the village quests, the guildie will chime in and just give you some dialogue boxes about what's going on, telling you how to capture a monster or run from the big bad monster because it's scary and you're not powerful enough to fight it yet. Now, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd took a similar route to Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite, asking the player if they're a beginner. Choosing the beginner option forces you into the beginner exercises through basic training, this time consisting of 10 quests. And these 10 quests basically cover everything you'd need to know. Deliver raw meat, deliver well done steak, deliver bamboo shoot, which is an account item, iron ore, craft and deliver mega potion, deliver sushi fish, carry and deliver wyvern egg, then having you slay 5 Jagia, hunt the Great Jaggy, as well as capture the Great Jaggy, all of which you will be using the sword and shield. And if this was your first Monster Hunter title, you would know how to gather, deliver items, combine, slay monsters, hunt monsters, and capture monsters, as well as fish, which you know my feelings on fishing. And of course, there's also the basic weapon training for the 12 different weapon types, and this time it's just a Paw Pass ticket delivery quest, so you can just go out, swing the weapon a couple times, and return if you'd like. But there's also a Great Jaggy present on this quest, so you can test your mettle against him as well. And starting the game without choosing the beginner option, of course you can head straight into the village and begin the 1-star quests, which of course act as a tutorial in themselves. Deliver unique mushroom, deliver kelby horn, slay 5 Jagia, slay 3 Blofango, deliver 5 royal honey, and then the urgent is the Arzuros. And much like some of the previous titles, you can just head straight into the guild and start hunting with your friends. Overall, I think Portable 3rd does the best job at just keeping this tutorial separate, allowing you to hop into the game and start playing immediately. And of course, if you are a new player, I do think they do one of the best jobs at showing the basic game mechanics that you will need to know in order to successfully hunt, capture, or deliver items. Right off the bat, you just start on a sand ship in 4 and 4U. It does give you an option in character creation to turn off some of the beginner-friendly messages that will appear during quests, but no option to skip the sandship sequence. With reading the dialogue boxes and cutscenes, it only takes about 10 minutes, probably quicker if you spam through everything, which isn't terrible, still faster than going through the whole tutorial sequence in Try and Try Ultimate. And I understand that they could have a ton of new audience. I'm sure 4 and 4 Ultimate was the first Monster Hunter a ton of people started with, and on this sand ship you learn the basic controls, you learn the different meanings of each station on the dragon ship, which will help you later on once you fight the big sand whale. Don't get me wrong, I can see how this is useful, seeing as Try and Portable Third never really showed you how the dragon ship worked, but it just seems an odd place to teach the player how the dragon ship works at the very beginning of the game. And while the dragon ship sequence is like the only real tutorial, they will sneak in a bunch of little dialogue tutorial boxes throughout the main story. A little annoying. They started doing that with Try and 3U, which isn't the worst way to teach a player. I would much rather take dialogue boxes over cutscenes and secret rides with story dumps. And speaking of story, 4 and 4U do have a pretty decent story. This is where the story writers put in a little more effort versus just, oh, big scary dragon attack village, go fight big scary dragon. Thankfully, after getting to the village, we can basically just start doing the normal questing, and the first few quests will act as a tutorial in themselves, having you gather raw meat and then deliver a rare or well done steak. After that is a winning combination. This is where they will have you deliver a mega potion, giving you the gathering and combination tutorials in one quest. After completing this quest, you will have the option of doing training quests with the Great Jaggy. And in this game, there's 14 different weapon types to choose from. And oddly enough, those 2 previous quests are the only level 1 quests. This leads you straight into level 2, where you will need to deliver mushrooms, Kelby horns, and there is a Jagia quest and a Conchu slaying quest. This will lead you into the hunting quest where you can fight the Celtis. Then you'll be introduced into the Everwood where you'll need to fight the Velocidrome and the Kutku. Also, once you've gotten to the village, you can just go straight online. So if you don't want to bother with the village quests, you can just head on into the guild hall and start playing with your friends. I haven't played Double Cross yet, but I have played Monster Hunter Generations. I'm not certain if in the character creation it prompts you if you're a beginner or not, but Generations does have a wide variety of content to cover and an extensive training section if you choose to go through it. Right off the bat, I believe you can just begin hunting or go straight online. So in Generations, it just lets you straight on into the gameplay. But if you do want to go through the training, there's 3 main sections: Hunter Basics, Weapon Styles and Hunter Arts, and lastly, Prowler Basics. The Hunter Basics section is made up of 7 different quests, this being Deliver Well Done Steak, Mega Potion, Iron Ore, Glutton Tuna and Sushi Fish, Carnivore Egg, and then the last 2 are Hunt the Great Macau and Capture the Great Macau. These quests being similar or identical to the ones found in the previous titles. Next is the Weapons and Hunter Arts training, and this one is quite extensive. I'm not quite sure for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, but at least in Generations, there's 1 quest for each weapon and an art style, and there's 4 art styles. In Generation Ultimate, there's 6 art styles, so 6 quests per weapon, 84 quests for training, all of which will have you hunting the Great Macau. And if you're not familiar with the art styles and the hunter arts, basically you choose an art style for your weapon, and then depending on which art style you choose, there is different movesets that go along with that. One of them that I really liked was the Adept style, basically allowed you to evade through a lot of attacks. And then the Hunter Arts, you could attach onto your weapon, allowing you to do special moves, kind of like the wire bug moves that we have in Rise, but obviously different. And depending on which art style you had, you could choose more or less Hunter Arts. Not the best explanation, but lastly, there is the Prowler Basics. This consists of the same 7 quests from the Hunter Basics, but just in Prowler form. If you guys don't know about the Prowler, it was basically the best way to go out and gather items. I believe you didn't need a pickaxe or bug net, and you could just jump under the ground and hide. It was a lot of fun to play and mess around with, especially if you're really into gathering items. You no longer needed to worry about cluttering up your inventory space with additional items, and you could just go out into the world and gather stuff. It was a lot of fun. Much like some of the previous titles, Generation just lets you go out and start hunting right off the bat, and then the level 1 quests do act as a basic tutorial if you did skip the tutorial section, with level 1 consisting of 2 gathering and 2 slaying quests, then having the urgent being Hunt the Great Macau, this monster being similar to the previous pack leaders. Now on to World and Iceborne. They are probably one of my favorite titles in the whole franchise, but dear goodness, the hand-holding and the railroading of the player is downright criminal. On top of the constant tutorials, hunting with a friend has never been harder. Yes, the servers and online connections to hunt with another player has greatly improved, at least after a few patches after release. And I'm not talking about just joining someone's quest, I'm talking about playing through the game with your friends or just anyone. And this isn't just my opinion. A ton of the negative reviews on Steam stem from the un-user friendliness of playing through the game with your friends. In order to do a key quest together, 2 or more of the players need to set out on their own quest, search for the monster, trigger a cutscene, and then everyone but one player, or just all of them, have to abandon the quest and join a new one. Whatever happened to join a guild hall, post a quest, and depart with your fellow hunters? While I love that the online and single player quests are combined in this game, as well as the monster scaling they added, I'm not sure it was worth the sacrifice of waiting around for someone to trigger a cutscene, join the quest, then have to rinse and repeat the entire process for every new monster encounter. The worst part about this is, it's not just an early game issue. It will persist all the way through the game until the end of Master Rank. Starting the game, you're thrust on Azora's back, providing basic controls as well as a climbing segment, much like the beginning of 4. After that, we're placed in the ancient forest at a base camp and yapped at all the way until we make it to the village. And of course, we don't have a weapon, so when we do encounter a pack of monsters, we're told to hide in a bush. After getting to the village, the handler holds your hand as you walk through the village to see all the things around town. If I thought dialogue boxes were an issue in Monster Hunter 4, Monster Hunter World introduces full-on dialogue conversations between the NPCs, lore and story dumping throughout the game. After a long 20 minutes or so of the introduction, you're finally able to head to the box and equip yourself with a weapon. One of the saving graces that World has is the introduction of the training room. This will allow you to test your DPS with different weapons against a large pole. Very user-friendly and a great addition to the game. Once equipped with a weapon, our first real quest is to take vengeance on 7 Jagras. After that, we talk a little bit more, head back to the ancient forest to slay some Kestodon. Upon slaying the herd of Kestodon, a great Jagras appears, starting our tracking tutorial with the introduction of the Scoutfly mechanic. The Scoutflies will lead us to a giant boulder dangling over the great Jagras' head like a cartoon skit with a giant falling anvil. This of course is your introduction to environmental traps, as well as triggering them with slinger ammo. And if you're playing Iceborne, it'll prompt you to press buttons to activate your Clutch Claw. And as I said previously, with more and more new mechanics, I can understand wanting to show the player how everything works, but this in turn leads to a tutorial segment in the game that almost seems never ending. And there is a better way to go about this, at least in my opinion. Once we get to Rise and Sunbreak, there is just a separate tutorial segment, except for just right off the beginning of the game, which the tutorial only lasts about 7 minutes or so. And the next few quests are as follows: Kuluyaku, Puke Puke, Tobikadachi, and yes, you can play all these quests online, but they all have the same issue of going out, finding the monster, triggering a cutscene, then in turn you can actually join each other's quests, but only when everyone has seen the cutscene first. Then you get to go on a cart quest where you guide a cart through the desert while it walks like 2 miles an hour while these old people push it up a hill. And oh man, this is the worst quest. Especially if you're playing online, because you can't trigger the cutscene till the very end where you find the scholar dude. And at this point, you're playing for like an hour by now, and you begin to ask yourself, when do I get to play with my friends? When do I get to go on multiplayer missions? Again, even once you're past these beginning tutorial mission, the game wants you to find a monster, trigger a cutscene. This will then allow you to have someone join your quest. But if you're playing through with another player, they also have to go out, trigger the cutscene, and then one of you has to abandon quest and join the other quest. It just seems so disconnected from just the hunting experience. You know, it's taking you out of the action, puts you right back into the quest, and then you gotta walk to the same spot you just walked 5 minutes earlier. And don't get the wrong impression, I love Monster Hunter World. The real fun does come when you do repeat quests or you're grinding for weapons and armor in the end game. But playing through the game just feels so much more tedious than it did in the previous titles. I do love that the writers crafted a more in-depth story, but at the same time, the way they implemented it just hinders from the enjoyment of questing with your pals and playing through the game together. An opinion that is shared by many of the Steam community. Rise and Sunbreak do have their tutorial moments, but they did revert back to having separate single and multiplayer questing system, at least for the base game. Sunbreak brings the two back together. Starting the game, you go through a brief 7 or so minute tutorial with one of the twins where they just show you around the village, pointing out the shop, blacksmith, button controls for the new wirebug feature, where to eat a meal to boost your stats. Next, you head on into the guild to register as a new hunter. Oddly enough, they do give you a camera tutorial. After that, Palamute controls for mounting and then dismounting, and one last dialogue box that grants you access to tutorial quests. And this is through the single player missions, or you can just head on straight into the guild and begin questing with your friends or solo. That's it. No cutscenes, no locating monsters first, then dropping out and waiting for others to join. If you're a new player, the first tutorial missions are pretty basic. They show you some of the older mechanics world introduced, how the tent works, where the item box is, collecting items, the new wirebug system and Palamute controls. Then there's also the spirit bird system that will raise your attack, stamina, health. And lastly, you slay 3 little monsters, and then you get to teleport back to base. More tutorials are offered. There's the monster mounting, as well as capturing a monster. But if you're playing single player and you don't want to do those training missions, you can just head straight into the 1-star quests. Additionally, there is a rampage tutorial once you get to it, but the first rampage you do will be a tutorial in a sense, but that's not the end of the world. And while they did deviate away from the crafting, gathering, raw meat, combining mega potions, these mechanics are not as important as they were in the previous titles, especially with the quality of life changes with the spirit birds, auto crafting, as well as having the tent accessible at all times. So the real question comes down to, if Rise did so well with letting the player just jump straight into the action, what went wrong with the World and Wilds team? And as I just stated, they do provide a tutorial on the basics. That's all it is. It's just a basic tutorial. We don't need a long, drawn out, story-driven tutorial, matching all these different story beats, walking to one village, talking to 3 different people, walking to another village, talking to more people, and then walking to a whole new area only to talk to someone else and trigger a whole new cutscene where we then have to walk to another area. And I'm starting to repeat myself, but it feels like all we do in Wilds is jump on the sea crate, get forced into a walking segment while they story dump on you, and maybe learn a new mechanic along the way. And for my first, and I should say my only playthrough of Wilds, I actually wanted to watch these cutscenes, I wanted to listen to these dialogue options, but the people I was playing with, they didn't care at all what was going on in the story. They just wanted to fight monsters, so they were constantly 1, maybe 2 or 3 quests ahead of me, and then by the time I could trigger a cutscene, they could come back and help me, and then they'd have to wait another 5 or 10 minutes or so before I could get to the next monster. Of course, because I had to go through another walking segment and another cutscene and another talking segment. And the craziest part is, I feel like once you get to high rank, you really don't run into this issue all that often. Your main mission is just to raise your HR, and you've already seen the majority of the monsters, so you just go out with your friends and fight monsters, just like Monster Hunter should be. And if that's how the game started, I wouldn't be making this video. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys really get invested into the story that they've added into these newer titles, or even in the previous titles of the game? I know 4 was a huge first Monster Hunter and first real Monster Hunter story for a ton of players. I did enjoy the story, but at the same time, when I got off work, I did just want to play the game, and I didn't want to watch this half movie, half interactive, fight a monster, lore dump, cutscene, dialogue box game. And if you made it this far in the video, I just wanted to say thank you. Please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, all that good stuff. Really didn't mean for it to be this long. I just kind of yapped for some of it, but I really would like to see a change, maybe in the next Monster Hunter or in the expansion of the game. I love the way that they try to teach us, but I think that there's a better way, like in Rise, where if you've played through the game and you know the mechanics, or you just want to learn the mechanics on your own, you should be able to just go out and start fighting monsters, whether you know how to play the game or not. And as always, I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the Gathering Hall. Peace out.